We are not your grandmothers and grandfathers in NAACP, and I know some chapters that's what I think of. We wanted to make this organization that already existed, that had a name, to see if we could make it work more effectively for justice in our community.
One of the main problems, I won't say failures, but one of the things that did not come out of the civil rights movement was economic parity. Mm-hmm. And so what happened is in the 70s and 80s, as we began to go to federal court and to destroy single-member districts so that we could create more opportunities for blacks to gain access to elected positions, they didn't have a way to make money. And so the same people that ran the system, they then were relying on for their daily bread, if I might say. And so what I found over the last 30 years is most of our black elected officials and a great deal of those religious leaders are in the pocket of the white power structure. And so you're not going to get anywhere there. And so that's why he was saying we need to figure out ways. That's just one of the things that we need. We need to do a lot of things. Next month we'll be talking about the importance of knowing your history and knowing who you are, because blacks exist in America essentially as a domestic colony. It's important that we understand that we exist as a domestic colony. We didn't fight a war to get free. Whatever little freedoms that we have or privileges we have were legislated in, they can be legislated out. And so that's one of the reasons why people like Trump and others like that scare you so much, because you didn't create your own freedom. And your freedom has to come from inside you. There has to be a permission. Dr. King talked about that. You have to have you have to write a check of self-assertiveness. And that comes from knowing who you are and being confirmed in that. That's why knowing your history is so important. So many people, when you start talking about history, they don't want to have that conversation. But it's an analysis of the past, so we have a better context in which to examine our historical faults and failures, and to examine our many potentials. That's one of the reasons why the conversation about reparations, that was the other thing that we left off our list. That was one of our major initiatives, is to be a part of the reparations conversation. I didn't say I agreed with this group or that group, but the conversation about being repaid. Interesting, I was looking at an episode of Merv Griffin the other night, because I was looking for a slide in Family Stone, I Want to Take You Higher. But I came across, because he was a little foolish when I heard him talking, but Muhammad Ali was on the show, and he was hammering home, this was around 1974, he was hammering home about how government, local, federal, and state governments had been specifically weaponized to exploit and to murder and to marginalize black folk, and said, and you didn't pay us back. And so Dr. King talked about it. When we went to a conference on ADOS, African American Descendants of Slaves, it was in Louisville, Kentucky back in October. And they talked about, they showed a film of Dr. King talking specifically. He said, we coming to get our check. He said, we come to get that check. And so that's a very important issue. So the NAACP specifically says that it stands for equal justice under the law and due process. Mm-hmm. And but because of our disorganization and our weakness, we let that slide in our communities. And it's not just the NAACP, of course, that's responsible for that. We each of us we all are born with the same responsibility to do justice in the world. It's not Dr. King's responsibility to die for you. I know we like to say that, but it's everybody's responsibility to do justice. And you say, well, that's not my calling. Yes, it is. Well, it's not his calling. Yes, it is. It's his calling. If you're a preacher, or if you're a black leader, and you ain't talking about freedom and justice and equality for black folk, then you lying. Just that simple. And so, we set out to tell folks about that the last few years, and we have done that. Bothered some folk, but we told you the truth. You didn't like it. The reason you didn't like it is because, well, we told the truth. And liars don't like the truth told. So we thank Mr. Shaw. Any other initiatives? We talked about ban the box to make it easier for, back when Mr. Bass was with us, That was one of our main initiatives with the city and with the county, trying to get the quorum court and the city council to buy into, to pass ordinances, taking the box where it asks if you are a convicted felon, take that off the application. The thinking is this. Most people, when they check, I'm a convicted felon, that's it. They're not going to even bother to look at it. So, but if you, if that person puts down their qualifications and training, then that may be of interest. But it doesn't mean that that you still not going to do the background check on them. But at least they'll get further in the application process, and then at that point, y'all can begin to discuss. Oh, well, this was 20 years ago. Oh, well, I was 18 years old when this happened, or since then, this, and that. It gives an opportunity for that person to have a dialogue, and gives them a better opportunity to get a job. And many states and counties and cities around the country have adopted it.
We are not your grandmothers and grandfathers in NAACP, and I know some chapters that's what I think of. We wanted to make this organization that already existed, that had a name, to see if we could make it work more effectively for justice in our community.